Hello, Artful Friends. I wanted to have an open discussion basically with everybody on just everything that's been kind of going on. I don't want to get where it turns into fighting or anything like that here in the chat, but I did want to just have an open forum discussion on all the shit that's been going on in the world. And I figured I can't stay quiet about it. I think it would be wrong to not say something. Things that have been going on in the world have been completely atrocious. Let's put it that. It's been horrific. And I always try my damnedest to see each side of an argument and try to look at them very fairly and kind of gain an understanding of why somebody believes the way that they do. Because the way that I've been taught and just seen through my 25 years is that nobody wakes up one morning and is like, I want to be the bad guy. I want to do something unforgivable. I want to be awful. Most people just don't do that. That everybody, even if they know like what they're doing is wrong, they always have something that they always have a reason for it in their mind that makes it justifiable. Actually justifiable or not, they in their head will have a reason for why they behave the way they do, or why they believe the way they do, or why they hate the people that they do, or love the people that they do. They always have a reason for it. And looking at all the stuff that's been going on in the world right now, where there's awful riots and just so much disturbing things that are going on right now, where it's not just even riots, but like we're facing where we could potentially be in World War III. I tried very hard to understand why people would behave the way that they're doing, of they truly believe. And it's something that it's very difficult for me because I don't believe it and I don't understand it and I don't want to ever think like, oh, that's an okay way to think. But when you're faced with your enemy, you have to think like your enemy. You have to understand where your enemy is coming from. Why have they gotten to this point? And it's kind of like whenever I personally myself was excruciatingly homophobic growing up. I was a massive homophobe. I hated gay people. I believed that being gay was a sin and that it was a choice. And I now, being where I'm at now, obviously don't believe that. And I would not ever believe that anymore. But I definitely once believed like that. And what changed my mind was not the people who were for the way that I believed, for telling me that you're an asshole, you're a homophobe, you're a piece of shit, how dare you, blah de blah. That didn't change my mind. It didn't make me even want to change my mind. I was like, oh, well, you just can't handle the truth, so you're hating me and treating me like shit. And it was never going to change my mind. And So my hate just continued, and I continued hating every gay person and whatnot. Which now, looking at it, there's a lot of hate for myself in the past of how could I allowed myself to be such a hateful person and whatnot, but unfortunately it felt right at the time to behave that way and to believe that way. And what ended up changing my mind was love that I was receiving for being homophobic. I was shown very open and honestly what exactly being gay really was all about. And it didn't come from just somebody telling me, like, oh, it's not a choice, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. It came from an example close to the person telling me. I believed at the time that being gay was a choice and it was just for deviant sex. That you just wanted sex and that's all you thought about. Mind you, I was raised very Christian. So that's all you get taught in church is that that's how it is. And people only think with their dicks. And what ended up changing my mind was being shown through the person who was explaining it to me, their uncle, and they had been with their partner for many years, decades, they'd been together. And he came down with his partner came down with kidney disease and kidney failure. So his kidneys were shutting down. And his partner like stayed with him and whatnot, which I thought was really weird. I was like, so they can't have sex? And she was like, no, no, they can't. He's kind of in the process of dying. And it was going on for years of dialysis and all sorts of things to try to correct it. And I was like, oh well, that's God's judgment. God gave him that because he was bad. Yeah. And so I didn't think much of it until she was like, well, he doesn't have anybody. He doesn't have family that accepts him, so his family's not there for him. And he's in the hospital dying alone. His partner, her uncle, was only allowed in during visiting hours. And because he was only allowed during visiting hours, like his partner is laying there alone dying. And that really hit home with me of thinking like, oh my god, so this man who he actually loves this guy enough, because I've sat in waiting rooms waiting for people to die, and it's a horrible experience because you're just sitting there and you're not allowed back. And it's horrific to just know like somebody that you love and care about in the next room over is dying and you can't be there with them. And so I was like, okay, so this guy obviously really loves this man if he is sitting there in the waiting room just having to wait and pray that he doesn't die while there's no visiting hours. And it really came from a place of love of I wasn't being told like you're evil, how dare you hate my uncle, how dare you hate his partner and whatnot. It was look at the love, see the good that comes out of this, see that if he were allowed in the hospital room he wouldn't have to die alone. Look at love. And from that moment I was like, you know what, fuck it. I was very religious and I was like, if there is a God, and I believed in God at the time, I was like, God would 110% not want somebody to die alone, suffering, and would not allow his partner to suffer just sitting in the waiting room, hoping that his partner doesn't just die on him. And so I completely changed my mind on, like, I from that moment on was like, you know what, I'm a homophobe. I can't be like this. What the hell was I thinking? Why did I believe that a god would be okay with such awful, horrible things? And I mean, then I really started questioning religion, and I quit my religion, and I did tons of research, more research than I had ever done as a Christian. I did so much more research on the religion I had been in. And I was like, oh, this God actually would kill people just for the hell of it, basically. Like, okay, that's not what I was taught at the church, yet it was what I was taught at the church. And I was like, I thought we had a loving God, but only hated specific people. And then the more I read and the more that I learned, I was like, oh no, this is just a God of pure, let's kill anybody for any reason and whatnot and just see what happens. And I really got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't want to be like that. I don't believe that is correct. And I don't believe that's actually a God. I believe that's a judgmental figure that people created in order to have a scare tactic to control people and have their own ideology of what they believed was correct. Because the more that I read, I was like, this God changes all the time. He's not consistent whatsoever. But you can tell by the time periods of when things were written that, oh, okay, he had to change so that they could get these group of people to behave, and then he had to change to make these group of people change. And I was like, oh, that makes more sense. And now I look at everything that's been going on the news, and I cannot justify. And I've tried, like, I wasn't trying to justify, but I was trying to like have an understanding of how somebody could be so racist and so profoundly evil. I was trying to understand, like, where's the hurt in them? Because were they either taught this way, like I had been taught to be homophobic? Were they taught to be racist? And if they actually just would open their goddamn minds from whatever they were raised as, and they were to open their fucking minds and see, like, the human being in front of them that they hate, that we're completely the same people. We're human beings. We all have feelings. We all have spirits. We all have, you know, the human aspects of, we all just want to survive, and we all want to be the best that we can possibly be for ourselves and other people. And it made me really upset because I cannot find why they've decided to shut their eyes to see themselves as only the only human and correct way of being human. And then I went back again to, but I used to do that. I didn't see the human in people who were homosexual. And it's literally just a wool over the eyes that you choose to have. You're choosing to think inwardly and only inwardly. And you're not choosing to yourself enough. If you truly believe that you are 110% correct, then what is the fear of opening your mind and seeing the other side? If you're right, then viewing the other side, getting to know the other side, loving the other side as much as you love yourself, if you do all that and you still find that you're correct, wouldn't that only prove your side more? Or are you scared because you know that if you were to grow the fuck up and view the other side and love the other side, you're scared that that will show that I was wrong. I was very incorrect. Are you scared of being the bad guy? So you have to behave more and more like the bad guy to try to act right in your own mind that you're correct. If you're correct, there should be no fear whatsoever to go and love the other side. Should be absolutely no fear. But there is fear. That's why they're closed minded. They're scared to open up because they know the second they open up, they're going to have to take a deep look in the mirror and say, I was wrong. But it takes a big person and a better human being to be able to say, I was wrong, but that doesn't make me a bad person. Just like me, I had to face myself and say, you know what? I was wrong for being homophobic. I was very wrong for that. And that's not easy to do. That's a very humbling, awful experience to go, oh wow, I was the bad guy. I was actually the one who was very incorrect. I didn't have love in my heart, which is wrong. Completely, completely wrong. And yet, I feel better for having finally looked in the mirror and owning up to who I was. And then I became better. I didn't just say, oh, well, I'm a fucked up homophobe and I feel bad about that, but there's no changing and I guess this is who I am. No, I had to go against everything that I had felt originally and completely change everything about myself, basically. And it was horrifying. It was not what I felt correct about at first because I did end up having to leave the church, which I felt I'm going to hell. I'm damned. Oh, great. I had all those fear in me. But yet, the more that I came to look at myself and say, you know what, maybe I'll go to hell, but I truly do feel this is the better way of being a human being. Now I'm 25 and I don't believe, like, oh, I'm going to hell because I'm not a homophobe. I think that's a better way to be. It's a much better way to be. But it took a lot to get there. And yeah, it sucks that it took a lot to get there. It shouldn't take a lot to get there, but it does. If we're honest, it does. But it's so worth it. It is worth going past the comfort zone. You make a comfort zone of how you are. And you say, this feels comfortable, this feels right, this is who I am. They're not like me, so they must be the one incorrect. Did it mean I had to turn gay? Hell no. And I didn't turn gay. But that doesn't mean that other people are not gay. Just because I can't feel it, just because I can't understand it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Same with different skin tones. I'm a white guy. I have no fucking clue what it's like to be anything but a really pasty little white guy. I don't know what it's like to be tall. I'll never know what it's like to be tall. I'll never know what it's like to have a different skin tone. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that people weren't just like born that way. They didn't ask for one way or another, just like I didn't ask to be a short little white guy. They didn't ask to be a tall, Hispanic girl or any of these things. You're just born. And unfortunately, can choose which way of being born was the most correct based off of not being a good, decent human being. No, no, no. They want to just immediately look at the skin and go, I know everything about you. You're not like me, so you must not be good. I'm sorry, but and even looking at these riots, I can't side with the white guys, and yet here I am a white guy. I will never side with those guys. Hell fucking no. I don't, I can't even comprehend how I would even be able to be like, oh yeah, well, I mean, we all match here. We must all be the same. No, 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 no. See, I'm with the one race, the human race. I love people, all human beings. Everybody deserves a chance until they fuck up and lose that chance. And these guys holding up these awful flags and holding up these awful ideals of hate towards other people. No, they've chosen to be the bad guys. They've lost their in my mind, they've lost their humanity right now. If you want to be human, you have to be okay with the fact that there are other humans and love and respect other humans until they prove individually that they have lost their humanity. And these individuals holding up these flags and holding up these ideals, they've made that choice individually. It does not mean every white person is a white supremacist piece of shit. And I'm not just saying that to save my own ass. I've been thankful to see everybody else of every single ethnicity and whatnot fighting against these assholes. Because yeah, we're all one. We're all very equal. And for some reason, people want to think there's no equality. It's 2017. I didn't think ever I would be hearing of this shit happening again. But then I really thought about it and I was like, it's been happening every single day. Only this time it got far enough to be such a weird extreme out of fucking nowhere. I have no clue where this shit just popped out. It manifested out of somebody's asshole, and now it's just like taking wind, and we're all having to suffer from the toxic gas of this shitstorm that these white supremacists have created right now. But yet, I went to a mixed elementary school. When I was a kid, I went to a mixed. Everybody was every color of the rainbow. We all were very different and whatnot, which was rare for where I was raised. I could have gone to any other school, which was primarily white, and they thought, anybody who heard that I went to the elementary school that I went to were like, oh, you poor thing. Oh, God, are you okay there? It's as safe as your school. And they're like, no, no, it can't be. It can't be because people are of other colors. And I'm like, as a child, that made absolutely no fucking sense to hear. Because they were my classmates. They were as equal to me as I was to them. We were all trying to get our little educations. And then fifth grade rolled around, and everybody, for some reason, over summer break, decided they saw each other's differences. And then our teacher taught us about segregation that happened in America. Us very quickly, this didn't happen a long ass time ago. She was like, no, 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 no. This happened in my lifetime. And that shocked me. But it was still prevalent then at my school. And every single day, it happens. And people just are so accommodated to it. And oh, that's just unfortunately how it is. I don't agree with it. I've never agreed with it. And I don't understand why now, because of so much passive of, oh, well, that just happens. That sucks, and wish we could do something about it, but that just happens. It's turned to the point where now somehow these people decided let's have a giant protest with all of our Nazi flags and shit. It's dumbfounding, basically, of, okay, so we kind of let it slide enough under our radar to now it's expanded to this. And it worries me that where did that come from? And why? And what can we do as here's the deal. I am super fucking tiny. I am an extremely tiny, tiny little guy. I stand really short and I weigh very little. So for me to comprehend going into the line of fire of going to a protest, I wouldn't be any help. I would be in the way of I'd get trampled in 3 seconds. So as a little guy like myself, what can I do? And that's why I'm on here. But it's also, I do look at my everyday. And if I see injustice, I speak up. Something that I very much loved was the person that I had last been with worked at a cafe. And here we do have who wear hijabs. That's normal. Yet in line, like they would get in line to get coffee, they're being normal. You know, I'm being normal. I'm getting some coffee too. And we'd have some guys who would like cut in line in front of these women. Just cut in front. And my partner at the time would tell them, like, excuse me, you cut in line. And they're like, yeah, but this is my country, so I can have this first. And they would be refused service for that attitude. And then they'd get angry. And, well, do the thing of don't just let it slide. You don't have to be hateful, because my partner at the time was not hateful to them. Was just kind of like, treat them like you would a grade schooler who's learning. Yeah, they bit Billy. If you slap the shit out of them for physical violence, you're a hypocrite. Or if they yell and they're just yelling awful things and awful things, if you start yelling back awful and awful things, it's like screaming for silence. It's not really gonna work. You have to hold yourself as the one you know you're in the right. It's always the people who start the yelling and start the just rage that are always the first in the wrong. And I did not approve whatsoever. Can I get this clear? I did not approve hearing that both sides are wrong. No, not wrong. One side, the ones who are choosing to spew hatred, they're the ones wrong. The side that is trying to yell over them because they're not being heard, it's not that they're trying to inflict the same violence upon these people. I mean, if you are trying to inflict violence on them, yeah, you're pretty much doing the same thing. But yet, I don't see that happening as much. I really don't. Nobody on that side has driven a car into the Nazis and the white supremacists. And I pray they don't. I mean, I don't like the Nazis. I don't like the white supremacists at all. But killing people is not going to make you correct. It proves even more that you are the one in the wrong. The person who drove their car into a crowd of people who were trying to shout over the shouts of hate and say, no, we're not going to tolerate that. You can't be like that. We're human. And then driving a car into those people who are like, we're human. Let's all be human. That proves at that point which side is completely in the wrong. And we already knew they were in the wrong, but they just proved to their own point that they were fucked up. By doing that did not make anything better for them. It didn't make them right. It wasn't yeah, I got rid of these people who believe in all people are human. No, it just proved even more that your side is losing and are losers. And so you chose even more to prove it. That's all that happened. And that's what ignorance does. And I was extremely upset, emotional wreck when I heard that that had even happened, that people had to die for standing up for love and standing up for humanity as a whole. There's not a single reason for that. Even if I was on their side, I wouldn't see a reason for that. Just like I'm on the side of, I'm completely against the Nazis, I'm completely against the white supremacists, but just like I'm also completely against Westboro Church, and they come to Oklahoma, which is where I live, a lot of the time, I'm not going to go run my car into them. I hate them. I think they're pieces of shit. I think they're the most worthless people on the planet. But I'm not going to kill them. And I'm not going to wish death on them either. What I wish for them is that they will grow up, acknowledge that they're outnumbered for a reason, for a good reason, and see their hate and why they're getting hate is because, yeah, they hopefully will learn that they are wrong. I hope that they can get to that point. But killing them's not going to change their mind. It's actually going to progress their mind and make them think even more, oh, well, somebody did this, and that just means that we're martyrs for God. So no, I don't wish death on them. They're humans, and humans fuck up and make very awful mistakes, and they are fucked up, evil people. Just like these Nazis and white supremacists. They are fucked up, horrible, worthless human beings. But I can hope, I can really hope that they can change. But running cars into them isn't going to change them. Hurting them's not going to change them. Love is the only thing that can change them, of showing them, you know, you can hate us. Okay. Wish you wouldn't. It's awful that you hate us. Very cruel and unusual. But you're still human, so I'm going to do the bigger thing, the bigger human being thing, and hope you change. I'm going to wish you well in life and hope that maybe by then you will see how completely and utterly fucked up your logic is. I give people a lot of second chances. I do. And I'm thankful that I've given people second chances because I've met some people who were why I left them at first, they were pieces of shit. Big pieces of shit. The most worthless human beings on the planet. And I kind of figured they'd never change. So I left. I didn't see a point of staying. They weren't going to change. And then they grew up. Even adults can grow up. Even adults can grow up. And then, yeah, instead of seeing that they grew up and them coming to me and being like, you were right, I was very wrong, and I've grown up and I've changed, and I respect the fact that you left me because I wouldn't have stayed with me either. I take them back after that. And I've had a lot of people prove to me that that was the correct thing to do. It's like, oh wow, they really did change. They are not at all the same human being that I once knew. And I'm thankful for that because, yeah, if they had ended up not actually really changing, they'd be back on the curb in 3 seconds. And I mean, I've had situations like that where they come to me and they're like, you were right, I was wrong, I'm so sorry, please take me back, I'll never be like that again. And they didn't actually learn their lesson, and they actually kind of were still the same. They really, there wasn't much of an actual change. They didn't actually respect and care about me enough to change. It just does upset me that we live in a world where this is unforgivable, and even if you change, what you did in the past will never be enough to make up for what you could do. I I went back and rewatched a documentary, and I forget the name of it exactly. It's on Netflix, so I'm sure you can find it. Just look up like Holocaust documentaries. And there was a Jewish woman who had been a twin, which if you were a twin in the Holocaust and you were lucky enough to survive to get to the part of the twins were experimented on, basically. And she was experimented on by this doctor. And horrific, horrific, awful things. Her sister, her twin sister, ended up dying there. And just atrocious, horrible, unimaginable things happened to her. Brought on by these people, these doctors. And obviously, like most people who survived the Holocaust will never forgive. They hate the people, they despise the people, and they will never forgive what was done. And to tell you the truth, that's okay. You know, we didn't go through it, so how are we to know exactly what they are feeling? But this woman in particular, she chose to forgive. Now, forgiveness does not mean at all whatsoever that you justify anything that that person did to you. It does not justify any of that. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't like just belittle it. No, it's you forgive because you don't need it to control you anymore. And then she took another step, which her saying that she forgave the doctor pissed off so many people in her circle who had also survived the Holocaust. And they were like, you can't do that. Fuck you. How dare you? Don't you know what they did to me and my family? And she was like, I don't know exactly what they did, and I'll never know the feeling of what they did to you and your family. I know the feeling of what was done to me and my family. Her entire family was killed. She's the only survivor, and she watched her twin sister be killed. She was like, I only know what I went through. She was like, but I have chosen to forgive. And she was absolutely reprimanded for it, hated for it. And then she took another step forward of she contacted a member of the German Nazis that had experimented on her and her sister. And she contacted this man to tell him, I forgive you. Not knowing if he had changed, not knowing anything much about him, just I wanted to let you know that you don't own my soul. You don't own my heart. You have no power over me anymore. I forgive you. And he contacted her back, and he actually had already had a change of heart of he felt absolutely terrible for everything that he had ever done. But he felt, just because I feel terrible doesn't mean shit. I did it, and nobody will forgive me. It's worthless that I even feel very bad for what I did, because what's done is done. I fucked up horribly. I killed people. I destroyed lives. So just because I feel bad for it, who cares? I'm a horrible, terrible person. And he contacted her and was just like, thank you, and I'm so sorry for everything. And they ended up meeting and ended up embracing and hugging and seeing each other as human beings. And yeah, that still pissed off a bunch of people. She lost tons of friends for doing that. But I've never seen somebody more brave in my life. Whether she's right or wrong, that's for everybody else's idea of whether she's correct or not to have forgiven. Whether she's right or wrong, that is one of the bravest, most badass shit I have ever seen. To literally meet the person who destroyed your entire life and hug them and see them for who they now are over who they used to be. Nobody told her she had to do it. Nobody made her feel like she ever had to do that. Quite the contrary. And yet she chose to be very brave. Right or wrong, she was super brave. I will give her that. Extremely, extremely brave. And we need more of that in the world. Because I'm looking at things like how we're probably going to go into a war that is so fucking unnecessary. Over what? Past shit. Instead of just growing up and changing from the past, we're still holding completely accountable always for what happened in the past, including countries. Countries which, have change of leadership, have this, that, and the other, constantly changing. All their people change because they all die out, and then it's a completely new cycle. But because they're always held accountable for who they used to be, change isn't being made very fast. No, we're back to square one, and it's horrible to watch. I'm like, look, I get in the past that you hurt so and so and so and so hurt so and so, and I get that. I do. We can't get past that though, for some reason. Why can't we get past the past? See people for who they are right now, deal with it of who they are in the moment, and then let them correct and take it the next moment, and take it the next moment, and take it the next moment. Why do we keep on like, oh, well, yeah, you're better, but do you remember what it was like? And I mean, we do that where we make allies with who used to be our enemies and whatnot, but it's so slow. And then you still have that inkling of that, but I remember what you were like. Okay, you know what they were like. Be thankful. Look at who they were and be thankful that's not who they are now. We're past that, remember? We're past the past. And that's what makes me really upset about like what's going on with these riots and stuff like that. Of no, nothing that was done in the past was okay. No. But we need to learn how to just see each other as humans. Every single human being has fucked up royally. But think inwardly for a second. Would you like to still be held accountable for a fuck up that you did as a child or a teenager? Would you like that to always be held over your head whenever you're like 80 years old? I don't look at my grandparents and be like, man, but you were a piece of shit as a teenager. No, because people change. Things can change. We have to be okay to hold the person's hand that was our enemy and say, I'm so thankful you changed because you were a piece of shit. But now you're a good person. Just like I watched like the Native Americans with the Washington Redskins, and there had been protests and protests and protests of we need to keep the Redskins, and could you not? That's really offensive to us, and you're making a mockery of us, and why would you do that and stuff. And one of the best pictures I saw that happened a few years ago was a chief and a big name of the Washington Redskins or whatever who was protesting so hard to keep the name and whatnot, and they had for years just like duked it out and both hated each other. A picture that I saw that just like faith in humanity restored, the Redskin guy changed his mind and was like, I now understand. This is offensive. I'm so sorry that I was so against you. And there was a picture of them hugging. Does it just completely justify that he ever behaved that way and he ever hated these people? Absolutely not. It doesn't completely forgive the fact that that was how he was, but it moves finally past it so that hopefully more people can learn from the example of this guy changing his mind and seeing that he's not still held as well, but you were once okay with it. And maybe other people will be like, oh, well, I want to change my mind too. I actually don't agree with this either. So I'm gonna change my mind and see that I'll be accepted and very thanked for being like that. And not just be like, oh, now you change. Sure, sure, now you change. But instead of thank you for changing, I appreciate that. Let's all work together as human beings to have a better, safer life and healthier life for everybody. Hate and hate don't change a damn thing. It doesn't. We have to come together as people. We're all hurting. We're all scared. We need to all own up to our humanity and see that every single one of us is human, no matter what. It's difficult, it's painful, it's not always the easiest thing to do to forgive somebody. And I'm not religious by any means. So this isn't me just being like, well, God says to forgive. This is me going off of experience and also listening to the experiences of other people. And a lot of much older people who have had a lot of life. I don't sit like I used to be in nursing homes. Like I had somebody where I volunteered with them. Well, they worked it. I volunteered with them at hospice. So I went to, and hospice was basically like, these people are going to die soon. So you just make them really comfortable and whatnot. And I'm thankful that I got those experiences because I got to sit with people in, their last days or so. And they would get to tell me like what they felt about life and what they believed. And, they would tell me these bullshit things that they had done in their life and regrets that they had. And yet they changed. They weren't that person anymore. I was shocked with a lot of people, these amazing, wonderful people, and then they'd tell me about their life story, and I'm like, how were you ever there? And they were like, well, if I hadn't been there, I wouldn't be a better person today. Which, I mean, I don't agree with the logic of I have to make my own mistakes in order to learn from them. I don't believe in that. What I believe in, personally for myself, is I'm going to learn from the mistakes of other people. I'm going to watch what they did wrong, and I'm not going to make the same mistake. I already know what'll happen, and I don't want that. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm human. And I'm going to have to learn from my own mistakes, but I'm not going to intentionally go seek out, well, what would happen to me if I did that? I know it hurt other people, but maybe I'm different. I don't want to do that. We all are unique and different people, no matter what. None of us were born to be the same. I liked whenever I was a kid, somebody said, like, if we were all the same, life would be excruciatingly boring. And I mean, I fully agreed with that. I was sad because I was like, yeah, but it's not boring a lot of the time because there's a lot of fighting. But yeah, I prefer to have people who are completely different from me and whatnot. Because it reminds you that, yeah, the world does not revolve around you. And there's a million trillion different walks of life. Your way works for you, okay. But that doesn't mean that it's always going to work the same for other people. We all have our own set of circumstances and whatnot. I can't just like I've had so many people tell me like, why don't you just like get this? Like, you have a really shitty car. Why don't you just like get another one? I don't have that option. You can't eat this week. Why don't you just go buy food? I don't have that option. Everybody has their own issues, their own things that they're going through. Just because one thing's easy for you does not mean it's at all easy for somebody else, and it's not for lack of trying. It's just we all are supposed to have our own lives. And we can't condemn people for how they live when we're not living the same way. I have no clue what it's like to be able to just go on vacation all the time and whatnot. I don't know what it's like to be able to afford really expensive, lavish things. I don't have a clue what it's like to be able to buy new clothes. I still have clothes from when I was 16 years old and I wear them like all the fucking time. I don't know what it's like to be certain ways. I also don't know what it's like to always be followed in a store. That's I look at the fact that yes, I have privileges, even though I may be lacking other things. Okay, okay. I'm not going to just sit there and be like, oh, why are you whining? So you get followed at the store all the time. You know what? I have been followed at the store because people thought I was a teenager. And for some reason, they think, all teenagers are going to steal shit. And yeah, it's really fucking annoying. You know you're not going to steal anything, and yet you've already been pegged based off of just your looks. You've been pegged as a bad person. That's annoying. But I don't get that all the time. I don't have that very often. And it didn't take that for me to be like, you know what? There are people of certain skin tones that get followed every fucking time and are always seen as they're gonna do something bad. They're gonna do something bad. It didn't take me getting followed in the store to realize, like, oh, God, that's wrong. How dare people? I already knew. That's fucked up. How dare they? Why would you follow people around just because their skin tone of, oh, that skin tone, they gonna steal shit? That doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. So yes, we all have our own privileges and our own rights and our own this, that, and the others. But we have to understand not everybody has that. So no, not everybody's going to think the way that you do or behave the way that you would because they don't have those options. I get told a lot, you should just eat. I'd love to. I'd love to. But I don't have that option sometimes. And I can't change that. At the time where I'm not able to eat, I can't change that. I would gladly in a heartbeat change it if I could, but I can't change that. So no, I can't behave the way that you would if I'm hungry. I can't do things the way that you would if I had no food. That doesn't make me wrong. It doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make me right. It doesn't make you right. It's just we're different. And every person is going to be different, and that's okay. Somebody, though, then help them instead of just being like, well, why don't you do this? I did this. Something that I don't like is, yeah, hearing from old people of, well, I did this back in my day when I was your age, so you should be able to too. Maybe I don't have that type of option. That's great that you were able to fix it. That's great that you were able to do that. I'm so glad. But I don't have that option right now. So instead of telling me what I should do, that obviously I can't or haven't figured out how the fuck to, how about you help me instead? Instead of just telling me what I probably, yeah, already know that I should do, but I obviously haven't got there yet, instead of just telling me, help me, give me a helping hand, help other people out. Don't just give them, the little sign that says, do this. Help them up. Walk with them. Do something to, like, actually be useful instead of just, oh, well, I told them what to do, so that was useful, right? Not normally. Not often. I mean, yeah, if you're going to a therapist and you're needing somebody to tell you what to do, okay. But other than that, just do. It's the golden rule: do unto others as you would want done to you. Would you like somebody to just look at your life and go, "Damn, you really need to do this, that, and the other," and walk away? Would that help? Would that change anything? Would that like make you open your eyes and be like, "Damn, I need to do that"? No, probably not. You're still gonna do exactly what you were doing and whatnot because it so far has been working for you. Or you're gonna be like, I know. It's not working, but I haven't figured out how, so you telling me to do that, I still can't get it. I still haven't got to that point. Be there for people just like you would want somebody to be there for you. Be the person that you wished for, that you hoped for. But then also remember that some people are not you, so they don't want what you wish for. And if it's not working for them, okay, try something else. Or let them know, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't really understand. I really do hope things get better for you and whatnot. And maybe try to find them somebody who will understand, or try to find them, that type of resource. We need to take care of each other. We need to love each other. We really do. Especially right now where there is just so much hate. We really need to come together and put aside a lot of fucking differences and just freaking love each other. And stand up and say, look, we're all doing just fine. We put aside our differences, saw each other as human beings, and look, the world's still going around and we're doing just great and nobody's getting hurt. Why is it whenever we press and whatnot, why all of a sudden is that whenever the hurting happens? Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. We have to, we really have to start putting aside some differences. We really do. We need to start seeing each other as equals. And I know it's pretty difficult nowadays we've got, I mean, I say nowadays, but we've always done this, but where we put each other in boxes or we put ourselves in boxes, and it's like, okay, I fit in this box and I fit in this box and I fit in this box. I don't fit in that box. They fit in that box. Okay. And we've all grouped ourselves in these little boxes, but why are we holding ourselves in these boxes and not just being like, the real box, the only box that we should really have is we're human and we're all different. That's part of being human. We're all different. The only box is the one labeled human being. We have to try. We really do. And I know that people have been definitely trying, and I'm very thankful to see a lot of good coming out of such bad. But I really do hope that this can all end and end soon. Hopefully, life can get much better for everybody. And I do hate people who hate other people. I do. I really do. But I don't wish them ill. I just wish that they would change to not be the type of person that I hate. I really hope that they change for the better and that they learn to love and accept that we're all human. And that's okay. It's okay to be human, and it's okay to be different from other people. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world because we all have our own thoughts and our own opinions, and we've all been hurt in different ways. But every person feels a lot like you do. We all do. no matter what, their skin tone, their sexual orientation, their this, that, and the others. We all have emotions. We all care. And we all want what's best. And that's going to differ, unfortunately, on what's best. But hopefully we can all come to treat others the way that we want to be treated, and that be for the best, where it comes from a place of love. And I hope that you all will have a good night. And I appreciate everybody for, I've seen a lot of great things be brought up in the chat and whatnot. And I know it's not the easiest thing in the universe. And it can feel like nothing is going to change. It's always going to be bad. And yeah, it probably always will be. But that doesn't mean it has to be for every single person. I know I'm a small voice in a very large crowd of people in the world, but, and I'm not trying to be like a big anything. I'm just, hopefully, there can be love in small circuits enough to just keep growing and growing and growing. And yeah, there will always be hate, but hopefully enough love can win out in the end. So I hope that you have a good night. Thank you all very much for being here. And I actually am going to edit a video that is a cosplay video that I filmed last night that's really funny. And it's been something that I've been waiting to do for quite a long time. So I hope that you'll look forward to it. I hope to have it up this week. So thank you all very much, and I will see you all later. Bye.